Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Two Broke Gaijin podcast, the podcast about financial freedom and the journey to said freedom for both you and us. We are here in Tokyo, Japan. My name is Eddie, and with me is my friend, my pal, my good buddy, Aaron. How are you doing, sir?
How's it going?
Today is it's a bit of a hot day today, isn't it?
It's I believe what we call in the business a scorcher.
I would definitely agree. It's really weird because like yesterday it was really nice and windy, and now just my God.
Yeah. Just May is here with a vengeance.
And summer is like just around the corner.
Oh,
so...
it's rearing its head. Some would argue it's here already.
Oh God. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, summer is just extremely humid in Japan. So
oh yeah,
that's a fun time to look out for.
You can't just run and take cover for the shade. You know, it gets you wherever you are.
Because it's just hot everywhere. There's no running.
It's best to just run for the air conditioning. With the air conditioning, just go there and stay there.
Yeah. And how are things going for you, good sir?
Oh, everything is all good. It's I had a nice walk around the park this morning.
Ooh.
Enjoying this lovely morning, and yeah, everything's going pretty well.
Okay.
For now.
Awesome. That sounds great. So anyway, should we I think we should get started, yeah?
Let's get right into it.
All right.
I believe you had a news story for us to begin with.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
For any of you who are looking into a little bit of Japanese real estate out there, I have a bit of interesting news that also kind of, relates to what we talk about here on Two Broke Gaijin. And the news article comes to us from Bloomberg.com, and the article is Japan's priests turn to property development. So, yeah, I'm not particularly sure if many of you out there, or just like a lot of people out there, don't really realize that like a lot of places like shrines and churches and stuff, they kind of they take money to maintain, So the thing about the article is like it starts off saying Shinto elders at the centuries-old UNESCO World Heritage Site in Shimogamo Shrine upset some neighbors when they bulldozed a swath of old Kyoto forest to build an apartment complex with units selling for more than $2 million. That's 2 million USD a piece. And
wow. Right?
Like, my God.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Someday.
And this is, I mean, for anybody who wants to read the article, feel free to read it. But the biggest part about that article that caught my attention is this particular paragraph. And it says, to make money, Japanese priests have hosted speed dating events, rapping battles, and televised flower arranging contests. They've also turned to real estate, a sign of the times as Japan experiences a property boom fueled by an ultra-low interest rates and a new inheritance tax that's encouraged retirees to shelter money in rental properties. Real estate investment last year accounted for about a third of the country's economic growth.
That's amazing.
Right. And the whole thing is, like, we here are talking about, financial freedom, what that means, how do we obtain it, entrepreneurship tied into that, all that kind of things. And I just found it really interesting because, I mean, you and I we're kind of like doing what we can on the side in our own personal lives to, get financial freedom.
Gotta have that side hustle.
Right. And I just found it extremely interesting that not even priests are like turning to that kind of thing, And it's the whole thing is like a vast majority of the time when you look at a priest, like how often do you look at a priest or like a monk or something and like, hey, you host a speed dating matchup thing. Like,
I think this is a sign of the times that
right?
As the cost of living for pretty much everyone goes up, people need to find new ways to make some money
Right?
to, maintain their lifestyle. It's kind of crazy, which is how things like Uber and Airbnb started. You're out of town for a little while, you want to rent out your place and make a bit of extra money on the side, you put it up on Airbnb. You got a car, you need to drive for a little bit longer, I don't know, you need to save for a holiday, you start driving for Uber. It is a sign of the times, and it's what companies are doing now. The biggest companies that are starting up now are like this kind of share economy.
Right. It just astounds me. It really does, that like even all these like priests are jumping into the idea of entrepreneurship or side businesses or all these other kind of things going on in order to make more money. I mean, granted, yes, for them, like the whole reason why they're trying to do this is to preserve the shrines and all that kind of stuff. But it's just the idea, the principle of arranging like side businesses and all that stuff to essentially get it to where that business kind of covers all your liabilities and all of your expenditures on the side, or even your main ones at that.
No, absolutely. And it kind of goes to that kind of entrepreneurial mindset, that whole turning hardships or problems into opportunities.
Really?
Yeah, like going back to Airbnb. I believe the guys that founded that, they were, I believe, late on their rent, or they had their rent payment coming up, one of the two, and they noticed this conference was coming to town.
Okay,
they're in San Francisco, and we know about San Francisco real estate and how much that can go for.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
That's a small fortune right there. So they're living in San Francisco. I believe it's 2-3 of them, I believe. And there's this conference coming to town. So what they decided to do was to rent out their space for those people coming to that conference and set up airbeds in their lodgings.
Oh,
hence Airbnb.
Yeah,
that's where the air comes from. It was the airbed inside of their residence. So, and they found that way to make enough money to pay their rent, and they turned their problem of not having enough rent, creative solution, making airbeds and selling off the space, and they turned it into a multi-billion-dollar business. Obviously, there's more steps than that, but that is.
I was about to say, I think there's a little bit. You're skipping some steps there, but
yeah, I'm sure there's some details I'm sort of glossing over there. But the broad picture is: see a problem, create a solution. Something profit, right?
something profit. That's how it is.
Right.
But I think one of the things that a lot of people though would. I mean, I've read a few books and articles here and there that say like some people, they don't really want solutions for problems they don't have. You know what I mean? So I think like
right.
Yeah. So like, how do you? I don't know. I might be overthinking that a little bit, but I'm just saying like turning a solution like that into a multi-million-dollar business, there's got to be some like. I don't know, some extra things going on inside somebody's head for that.
That is true. But I would say that what I would say there is that the problem they had was their problem, and they must think other people must have this problem too.
Right.
It's they weren't going out looking for a problem. The problem kind of just presented itself.
Right.
And they presented a solution to that problem. And it's now, if you go anywhere, people, I mean, if you're under 25, people don't really book hotels now, they book Airbnb.
This is very true.
They book it, I mean, or it's at least look at it as one of their options. Airbnb, home away, it's one of the main options you do when you're traveling anywhere. I recently went to Thailand in January. I was looking at hotels and I was like, wait a minute, when I check at Airbnb, it was like quarter of the price for like a hotel room in this like hotel quality place that someone had put up an Airbnb. I mean, it was.
Jeez, that's
Yeah.
By the way, we're not sponsored by Airbnb.
No.
Okay,
No
sponsorship there.
just
like this is just I mean, unless they want to. I mean, it's fine. But
again, we're always open. But no, yeah, that's kind of what I would say about that. Like turn those things into opportunities.
Right. So, question for you.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of people. This isn't just. I feel like this isn't just you and I who are trying to kind of go on this path of, you know, trying to make ourselves successful and get ourselves out there in the world. But I feel like a lot of other people, you know, are trying to do the same exact thing. And I think we should start at the very beginning, which is exactly what we've been talking about this whole entire time, is like somebody's mindset on how they go about that. So just for you, what's your outtake or your outlook on the whole thing, really? I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, what for you, like, what is the mindset necessary to get yourself started?
Oh, that's a great question, and I'd like to kind of take one step back and sort of, if maybe you're out there and you're not quite sure what we're talking about, mindset. Like, what is mindset?
Right.
It is the kind of default you have when you approach life. Like, how do you see your life? How do you see your situation? So, for example, I'm going to use a really basic example here. It's the whole glass half full or glass half empty, thing, where it's like, are you optimistic or are you pessimistic? They're two different mindsets. Are you active or passive? Two kind of mindsets. Are you someone who likes to go out and make things happen, or are you someone who likes to sit back and wait for things to happen to you? Those are kind of what a mindset is.
Right.
So with that, kind of, unless you've got something to add, unless I missed something about what you believe mindset entails.
No. Like that sounds correct to me. I mean, I don't know, but I can't. You just keep saying whatever I'm thinking. You just keep saying out of your words. So
okay. I'm sure we have some points of disagreement at some point.
Some point for now.
At some point, but it doesn't. It's just not today.
Not today.
At least at this point. So with that being said, what is? Okay, so your question being like, what is the mindset that you use to move forward?
Right. Like, what do you need? Like, where do you start in terms of like the mindset?
I would say it's ever so slightly different for different people.
But
I would say, at least for me, and how I ended up here and how we ended up doing this podcast, for example.
Right.
Is seeking opportunity and finding opportunity in everywhere that you look. So everywhere you look, you see an opportunity in that thing, or how can I turn that into something that's beneficial for me? How can I build something out of that? How can I give back to somebody? It's that kind of like positive, it's that optimistic outlook. You always see the bright side in things.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, at least that's for me. What about yourself? What's the mindset that brought you to where you are?
Well, I think
today?
Like initially, things were the same. I think this is where we kind of divulge a little bit, but for me personally, I feel it starts with a sense of desire, a sense of what you want.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, granted, I'm by no means am I disregarding what you said, because I agree. Sooner or later, you kind of have to analyze the situations and turn your whatever situation you're in into an opportunity.
Make lemons out of lemonade.
Make lemons out of lemonade. Or
make lemonade out of lemons. So that's, I think that's what you're saying.
Whatever works. Yeah. But the thing is, for me, to take, a half step back, I think it has to start with a desire. Because I think unless someone has a desire or a want to do something, they kind of have to, they need that desire first before they can start thinking about, how do I turn this into an opportunity, or how do I do something? Because initially, if the desire isn't there, then they're just kind of wave off any opportunity that they see, or that they might even recognize. Right. So, like, if anything, one of the biggest things is I'm currently reading a book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Oh, it's amazing book. I haven't, for anybody out there who hasn't read it, I highly recommend it. It's such a good book.
I would probably say it is the definitive book on that kind of mindset.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, like, I've literally, like, I've just started reading it and I love it already. He goes, Napoleon Hill in his book mentions a particular person who's, to be honest, until this book, I don't really think a lot of people know about him. His name is Edwin C. Barnes. And Edwin C. Barnes essentially was this man who just had this overwhelming drive and desire to want to be the business partner of Thomas Edison. And essentially what he did was, because he had that desire, he changed his entire mindset to just doing whatever he can, turning situations into opportunities, like you said, to get to where he needed to be. But initially, he had that want, that drive that caused him to think like that.
Oh, I absolutely agree. It's the, see, I see the word desire, but I might substitute it.
You're thinking another word is better?
At least in a more general sense, I would substitute it for, say, like goals or aspirations. Like, where do you want to be?
Isn't that kind of the same thing?
It is kind of the same thing, but a desire just seems, I don't know, I'm kind of stickler for English.
Right.
I know, it's like, just in terms of like a desire just seems a bit more aggressive than where you want your life to be. What do you want your life to look like?
Right.
It's like an aspiration or a goal. Or yeah, a desire too.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that it's, if I had to pick a word, that would be the word I would have picked. But yeah, I take your point absolutely. That is true. It kind of starts with the end almost. Where do you want to be?
Right.
And then you step back from that and say, okay, now how do I get there?
Right. So I think definitely, I think that's where it starts. Actually, maybe, yeah. I would say, yeah, that, I think it's that want. You got to have that want. You have to make goals. You kind of have to, yeah.
Right.
That's just my outtake. And for me personally, like I wanted to come here. I wanted to come to Japan. And I'm pretty sure at some point in time, you decided the same. You wanted to come here. That's why you're here. And same thing with like some of our other friends that are here. I mean, that's why we came here, because we wanted to get here. That was what we wanted. It was a goal.
Right.
And somewhere down the line, we decided to actually carry out that goal. And then boom, here we are.
Right. Now, but if you're out there and you're thinking, that's all well and good, you saying, you know, make a desire and then follow the path of that desire. It's like, I want to go to LA, so I have to drive from here, get on a plane, and then fly to LA. That's all well and good, but I'm not in that right space. I'm not in that right mindset.
No?
To get there. And this is kind of our main point here, is that you'll be surprised about how much your life can change and what you can do just by changing your mindset.
Oh, that, yeah, I completely agree.
Nothing external. You could be in the same situation that you were in yesterday, but you change the way you look at life, and you change the way you analyze things, you change the way you approach things, you change the way just your general perspective. You just change your perspective, and it doesn't have to be a massive 180. You just tweak it slightly here and there, and you'll be surprised at the opportunities that you see. And you'll be surprised at the kind of progress that you made. Like even me, and I'm sure you as well, Eddie, that when we moved to Japan, I mean, I'm sure once upon a time, it just seemed like, how am I going to do that? Yeah,
actually, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say I've had my fair share of times doing that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So you sort of, you set out your goal, your desire, your aspiration, and then you you get to the point and go, okay, how the hell am I going to do that?
Yeah.
How am I going to do that? And then you realize that because you've because you decided on that goal and you have to change your mindset to align with that goal, you'll find a way to do it. It's surprising when I look back and seeing where I am now, situated in Japan, and where I was, I don't know, 5 years ago, when I just decided that I want to move to Japan once I graduate.
Right.
The gap between there and here is huge.
Yeah.
But because I had that mindset that is what I was going to do and that is what I wanted to do, I found a way to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't smooth sailing. There was some ups and downs. There were some skin in the teeth moments, as with anything.
Yeah.
As with anything. But I knew that I wasn't going to give up, and two, that it's definitely what I wanted. And now I'm here. I've fulfilled that goal.
Right.
I've fulfilled that goal.
Right. I think definitely. I mean, personally, yeah. I've just within the past year, I've changed a lot. So that's. I mean that my mindset fundamentally has changed quite a bit. And granted, I mean, I'm not perfect, and no one is, and I'm still learning, and that's kind of the whole point of like everything, because we're here to take this journey together. The thing is, I think a lot of people though have difficulties trying to change into that mindset, because there's a lot of people out there. I've talked with quite a few, just within Tokyo here and there, foreigners. They come and go for various different reasons, and a lot of them tend to have this, I don't really know what to call it, I guess, stuck mindset that you have to play by a set of rules and you can't break out of that. Essentially, it's like, in order for you to get anywhere, you have to do this before you can even do anything. And it's and a lot of the time, I mean, I know I'm being a little vague right here, but my overall point with what I'm trying to say is, a lot of time there's a they get into this point within the conversations that I have with them, and they say, "Oh, I think you're more of a dreamer. I mean, I like, this person is more pragmatic and they do things, but you seem more of a dreamer and you want to do this." And I think, like, I don't know, do you really have to be a dreamer to, like, is like a dreamer's mindset really kind of what you need in order to do like what we were just talking about, or what? Because that's one of the things I'm
now using this, like, dreamer is almost like head in the clouds kind of dreamer is what you're kind of referring to, that kind of
essentially, yeah, because they have this, I mean, using words, I mean, I understand what they're trying to say,
yeah,
but it's this whole this wall. It's like people just establish this wall between being quote unquote pragmatic and then quote unquote following your dreams, or going out and doing it. It's almost like they consider you like your head is in the clouds.
I think it comes back to one of the oldest dichotomies of mindset, which is optimism versus pessimism.
Really?
I believe that's pretty much the root of that. It's the, not necessarily jaded, but it's the, once you've been knocked down and you've been hit from each side, and you've tried to do something and it's failed, and you tried again and it's failed, and you're kind of worn down, you kind of get jaded. And that's a natural human reaction. Once you try something over and over again, it just doesn't work, you kind of get jaded. And what I think, the people that try and say that, maybe that's happened to them, or maybe it happened to their parents, and that's kind of the mindset that they've instilled in their children, which they're then kind of passing on to you. Your head in the clouds, maybe you should be a bit more realistic and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I honestly think that is the real test of your mindset.
Really?
That is the real test. Will it stand up to scrutiny? Will it stand up to some setbacks? That's how you know if you've changed your mindset, like totally. If you're in it and then you're sort of dedicated to where you want to go.
Right.
This is the sort of interference that you encounter when you're on your way to where you want to go. For our case, as of now, as is for the topic of this podcast in general, is financial freedom.
Yeah.
I'm sure sometimes you tell people, I don't want to have a job, and they go, what? It may not be their fault. It may not have occurred to them. There's many different reasons as to why they may not know that you're being serious, and two, it's a completely people do it all the time, and you'll be surprised the amount of people who are freelancing, doing their own business, and they're making a living and they're making a go of it.
Right.
But if you enter certain circles, that's completely foreign to them.
Right.
Completely foreign.
Yeah. I mean,
and yeah.
No, if you're not finished, but please.
Oh no. So what I wanted to do on that point is to ask you, where did the mindset that you have now come from? What was your inspiration to? You said you've been in it for about a year,
right?
And which would mean you were in a different place about just over a year ago.
Oh, I was.
So what was that transition, and why did you make that transition, and what was the catalyst for that?
Ooh, that's very, very difficult, actually. That's a very difficult question to answer. I would say it had to be around the time when I first got here to Japan. I would have to say that it was around that time. And I don't mean like literally day one from getting off the plane. I mean like, a couple months after living here and actually getting into, going to the office. By the way, I don't know if you guys, for anybody who's on the follow, like Aaron and I are coworkers at the same office, so there's that. So, but when I got there at the office and I was, doing all the work, kind of learning the ropes of, how business works. I don't know, sooner or later down the line, I just thought that, like, maybe this isn't for me. The whole, 9 to 5, or right. In our case, 9 to 6.
9 to 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Japanese hours, though.
Japanese hours, yeah. And then sometimes even later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've been putting those 12, 13-hour days sometimes, yeah.
Right. And I remember I started thinking that, like, maybe that's not for me. And then I went through this whole cycle of looking at other jobs and looking at or not looking, but like talking to other people about other jobs and all these other things. And I noticed that there was a lot of people out there that said the same thing, not necessarily the whole 9 to 5, 9 to 6 thing, but it's just like, hey, yeah, that's just how life is. And I was like,
right.
No,
yes,
like that can't be.
Those people are everywhere.
Right, yeah. And I mean, not to hate on anybody. If that's what you prefer, then by all means, go for it. But just personally, I don't think that's necessarily for me. And I think it got to a point where I started reading forums about how to, I don't know, how to, all right, well, I might as well go. I started reading forums of like how to work less hours, increasing efficiency, maybe do something better so I can be faster, kind of thing.
Right.
And then...
So min-maxing, essentially.
So
it's when to min-max your job.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I remember talking to you for the first time.
Okay. I didn't know I was part of the story.
Oh, you are part of the story, my friend. Like, don't think you just popped in out of nowhere, but no, you
into Aaron stage left.
Yeah. And then I forget in particular what like the minor details we had talked about, but you started telling me about all of these different methods, because I believe at the time you had you had your own personal like blog website or something, right?
Right. Yes, I did. At that point, I was essentially doing this podcast, but by myself in blog form.
Yeah.
That was essentially what I was doing.
Yeah. I mean, if you still have it up and you want to plug it, go ahead.
I actually don't. It's actually come down for now. But if that's something you guys are interested in, let me know, and I can put it back up again, and maybe start it up again, because it is currently on hiatus.
And there you go. So I remember you were doing your blog at the time, and I was like, what is this? And then you were doing all of that, and then you started introducing me to all of these different books and forums and all this other stuff. And by the way, people, books, important, read them. I don't know.
Very.
And
great source of, if you want to change your mindset, read more.
Read
more, definitely.
And I think the more I started reading a lot of these things, a lot of the things that these authors said just hit me like exactly what I was thinking. It was almost like they knew me, like they knew what I was exactly thinking.
Right.
And they're saying, oh no, like it doesn't have to be that way. You can do this and then you can do that. Easy. To prove it, just follow this one simple thing, and then 1 week later, ask yourself how you really feel, and then refer back to this book or something. If not, then just throw it away, kind of a deal.
Right.
And a vast majority of the time, like 85% of the time, is true. And I haven't just noticed that in myself, but like other people as well. And then more and more, as I started doing this, I started becoming more motivated. And, one thing led to another, and then, man, next thing I know, I'm like, okay, now I want to do something.
Right.
And here I am.
That's pretty much it. That is the power of the mindset. It's the important first step. It is the important first step. Now, when we say getting started, when we say, how do I see these guys driving around in Lamborghinis and going off on these amazing holidays. Like, how do I get there? The first step is changing that mindset. Like you said, it's changing that mindset from, as you said last episode, in our introductory episode, is changing that from I can't afford it to how can I afford it? But do that with everything.
Yeah.
To I can't do that to how can I do that?
I will say though that just something like that, it's simple but really difficult to do.
It is. Now, by no means saying this is easy.
Experience on that part.
Yes. We're by no means saying that this is easy. This is a walk in the park. You can just, I'm just going to change my mindset one day. It does take time. It takes motivation, inspiration. But once you have it sort of hardwired, and it does take some time to get it hardwired into you.
It does.
Once you get it hardwired, you're pretty much, you've built the foundation for the rest of your life and your journey into financial freedom, for sure. And whatever else you want to do, if you want to do anything else, this podcast is around financial freedom, so we didn't talk about that. But in anything at all,
I definitely agree. One thing to add on to that.
Go on.
One thing to add on to that is don't rush it too much. Because
at your own pace. At your own pace,
because that foundation is important.
Yes.
I feel, because if you rush it too much, I mean, what is it? I believe Stephen Covey, in one of his books. One of his books. I might as well just say it, like Seven Habits.
Book, right?
Yeah, the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective
book,
People.
Yes.
Everybody just read it. It's great. I believe he mentions in one part where he says, like, you have to have, like, if you're building a house, you want to have a strong foundation on it. Actually, a lot of people say that, really, now that I think about it.
It is. I don't think he coined that phrase, but I have heard of building a house on sand versus building it on the rocks.
Right, yeah. There you go. So I would just add,
yes.
like, don't just think, that, okay, it's not about I can't afford it to how do I afford it, and then you're done. Don't just think it's just like that. Like,
Yeah.
Just take time, think about it, and like actually try and understand it if you will, versus just saying, okay, all right, so how do I afford that? Oh, okay, I can do this, blah, blah, blah. And then everything's willy-nilly, like, you know.
Right. Get that core, get that foundation first. And then hopefully we'll be talking about the next steps. We'll be talking about where we go from here. And in future episodes, we'll be talking about, okay, now you've got the mindset. Where do we go from here? What's the next step? Because that foundational mindset is important, but you have to build upon it too.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So I think the first step is probably mindset. Getting that mindset sort of dialed down and getting that mindset to the point where it's your default now. It's your default way of thinking. And then I would say the next step is probably, how do you get moving? How do you motivate yourself? How do you get out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to work on that side business that you're doing to get some extra money in the house? You know, that kind of thing. So I think that's what we want to touch on next time. Is
motivation.
Motivation. Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Yeah, I think that's a good thing, because I feel like I think that's an important thing to talk about, because I feel like a lot of people, like, they can think something, but it's hard to feel motivated to actually do it. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can think a certain way, and you can have that. I mean, we all struggle with motivation. It's that's one thing that you can't necessarily hardwire. That is an ongoing struggle. Right. But absolutely, we'll go into that a bit more detail next time. And if you guys want, we can actually revisit mindset again further down the line as well. So while this was a bit of a comprehensive episode, it's not necessarily everything we have to say. And if you guys have something to add, you can always email us at twobrokegaijin@gmail.com. That's twobrokegaijin@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Two Broke Gaijin. You can find us there. And please, if you can, it helps us out a lot if you give us a review on iTunes. If you enjoyed the show, give it a 5-star. That helps us out a great amount. And
also, just to say something for any of you out there who have a story to tell. I think that, like, if anybody out there wants to share their experience on, like, how they develop, like, a mindset of actually doing kind of, you know, their everyday side hustle or whatever, I feel like we can learn from each other.
Exactly. We want you guys to be as much a part of the show as we are. So we want your stories. We want your feedback. You know, we want you to contribute to the Two Broke Gaijin.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
Yeah. Hopefully one day it will be like the 1,000 Broke Gaijin or something.
the 1,000 global Broke Gaijin, yes.
Or something.
Okay, thank you very much, guys, for listening. And we will see you next time.
Bye.